Was Jesus just a myth, or is there real historical evidence of his existence? For centuries, skeptics have tried to dismiss Jesus as just a religious figure, a man made up by the church. But what if I told you there is undeniable historical proof that Jesus walked this earth? Let's start with this. In 30 to 33 AD, a man named Jesus of Nazareth traveled through Judea, healing the sick, teaching the crowds, and performing miracles. But here's the first shock: even non-Christian historians have written about Jesus. One of them was Tacitus, a Roman senator and historian who lived just 20 years after Jesus' death. In his writings, Tacitus clearly mentions Jesus being crucified under Pontius Pilate. But that's not all. A Jewish historian named Josephus, who wasn't a follower of Jesus, also recorded that Jesus was a doer of wonderful works and was crucified. Now think about this: why would two different historians, from two different belief systems, both confirm Jesus' existence? And here's where it gets deeper. The Bible mentions that during Jesus' crucifixion, the sky turned dark, and there was a great earthquake. You might think this was just a religious claim, but Roman records confirm there was, in fact, a massive earthquake and darkness around that time. History is lining up with the Bible. But what about the resurrection? Here's where it gets even more mysterious. The tomb of Jesus was found empty. Roman guards were paid to spread a lie that his body was stolen, but no one could produce the body. The disciples, who once feared for their lives, suddenly became bold and willing to die for the truth that Jesus had risen. The question is, why would someone willingly die for a lie? And if Jesus really didn't rise from the dead, then where was the body? And here's where things get shocking. There is more historical documentation about Jesus than there is for Julius Caesar, yet no one questions Caesar's existence. But when it comes to Jesus, the world is desperate to erase him. But why? And what happened after his resurrection that shook the entire world? Because the moment he took his last breath, something unexplainable happened. The Bible says darkness fell across the land, the earth shook, and the veil in the temple was torn in two. But did you know? Even Roman records confirm that a sudden and unexplainable darkness covered the land during Jesus' crucifixion. And here's where it gets even more mysterious: 3 days later, the tomb where Jesus was buried was found empty. The Roman guards were in shock and told the priests what happened, but instead of believing, the priests paid them to lie. They were told to say that Jesus' disciples stole his body. But here's the question: where was the body? If Jesus didn't rise from the dead, why couldn't the Roman Empire, the most powerful government at the time, find his body? And here's where it gets even crazier. The disciples of Jesus, who once feared for their lives, suddenly became fearless. They boldly declared that Jesus had risen, and they were willing to die for that truth. Think about it: if Jesus never rose from the dead, why would these men die for a lie? And here's something that will shock you. 500 people claim to have seen Jesus alive after his resurrection. The Bible records that Jesus appeared to individuals, crowds, and even ate with them. 500 witnesses, all saw the same thing. And here's the most mind-blowing part: Roman officials and Jewish leaders did everything they could to silence this truth. They tortured, imprisoned, and killed the disciples, but no one ever denied what they saw. The question is, why? Because Jesus wasn't just a man. He was God in the flesh. And his resurrection proved it. This wasn't a myth. This wasn't a story. This was history. And today, that same Jesus still lives. The same Jesus who conquered death and proved that he is God, is the same Jesus who can save you today. The only question is, will you believe? Or will you do what the world does, and try to erase him? The choice is yours. Comment "Jesus lives" if you believe. Subscribe to Divine Drive for more faith-based inspiration.